You don't stumble into this world. Someone brings you in. That's the first thing to understand. There are no job postings, no LinkedIn recruitments, no open applications. Every single person inside this system arrived the same way you're about. Through a chain of trust so carefully constructed that by the time someone hands you the door, you've already been watched, evaluated, and quietly approved by people whose names you will never know. The offshore banking world isn't a place. It's a logic, a set of principles that govern how money moves when it doesn't want to be seen. It operates in the gaps between jurisdictions, inside the silence of shell registries, across the desks of notaries in cities nobody thinks to investigate. It has been running in one form or another for longer than modern regulation has existed to stop it. And it works. Not because the people inside it are uniquely brilliant or uniquely evil, but because the system itself is elegant. It was built incrementally, one loophole at a time, one compliant bank at a time, one ambitious young professional at a time, until it became something too complex, too distributed, and too useful to the world's most powerful people to ever be fully dismantled. You're about to walk through every level of it, from the first envelope to the last disappearance, from the first rationalization to the last reflection in a rented villa overlooking a sea with no extradition treaty. Pay attention to how each step feels reasonable. Pay attention to how the line keeps moving. Pay attention to who you are at level 1 and who you've become by level 8. Because the most dangerous thing about this world isn't the money, it isn't the exposure, it isn't even the isolation at the top. It's how logical every single decision feels when you're making it. This is your life, every level of an offshore banking empire. It starts with an envelope. The envelope arrives on a Tuesday. No return address. Inside, a single card with a phone number, a name that isn't a name, and 3 words. You've been recommended. You don't know what it means yet. You will. Level 1, the referral. You're 26. You work at a mid-tier accounting firm in a city that smells like ambition and exhaust. You're good at your job. Good enough that someone noticed. The call comes on a Wednesday afternoon. The voice is calm, professional. It asks if you're interested in specialized financial structuring for international clients. You say yes before. You understand the question? They don't explain much. They don't need to. The meeting is in a hotel lobby. Coffee. 40 minutes. The man across from you wears a watch that costs more than your annual salary and says almost nothing of substance. He's evaluating you. You understand this only afterward. What he's looking for isn't brilliance. It's discretion. The willingness to not ask the obvious question. You don't ask it. 2 weeks later, you receive a contract. The retainer alone is $8,000 a month. You sign it in your apartment at midnight with a pen you borrowed from a neighbor. You tell yourself it's just accounting, international tax optimization, perfectly legal, mostly. You're right for now. But the envelope wasn't an offer. It was a door, and you just walked through it. Level 2, the apprentice. Your first client is a Latvian logistics company with 17 subsidiaries across 9 jurisdictions. Your job is to understand why the money moves the way it does and make sure the paperwork stays clean. You work under a man named Drevitz. He's 50, dry, precise. He never explains more than you need to know for the task in front of you. At Iseo. First, this frustrates you. Then you realize it's protection, his and yours. He teaches you the architecture. Shell companies aren't hiding places. They're rooms in a house. You need to understand which rooms connect to which doors lock from the inside, and which walls are load-bearing. You learn the jurisdictions. Cayman, BVI, Seychelles, Jersey. Each has its own personality, its own registry rules, its own relationship with disclosure. You learn which banks ask questions and which ones have learned not to. You make $94,000 your first year. You don't spend it loudly. Drevitz told you that once, just once, quiet money lasts. The work feels clean because it's technical. You're solving puzzles. You're not thinking about where the money came from. That's not your job. At least, that's what you tell yourself at 11 p.m. When the spreadsheets blur and the jurisdiction map on your second monitor looks less like a business structure and more like a maze designed to lose someone inside it. You don't follow that thought. You close the laptop. You go to sleep. Level 3, the operator. By year 3, you have your own clients. Small ones at first. A tech entrepreneur from Tbilisi who made $9 million on a crypto exit and needs it structured across 4 entities before it touches any reportable account. A Dubai-based family office that wants European real estate purchased at arm's length. You know how to do this now. Not just technically, instinctively. You know which intermediary to use for which purpose. You know which notary in Nicosia doesn't ask follow-up questions. You know that the best structures are boring on paper. Novelty attracts attention. Repetition is invisible. Your fees are $350 an hour. You bill 20 hours a week and work 40. You have a support team now. A paralegal in Warsaw. A compliance consultant you use for cover more than guidance. A banking contact in Valletta who has never once met you in person, but has opened 11 accounts at your request. You've stopped thinking about the source of funds in any meaningful way. You do KYC, you collect documentation. If the documents look right, you proceed. What the documents represent is someone else's problem. This is the rationalization you've built. It holds weight. Most of the people in this business have a version of it. You meet a man at a conference in Geneva. He's introduced to you as a capital markets consultant. He clears $4 million in fees annually and lives in Monaco. He's been doing this for 11 years. He seems fine. He seems happy. You study him the way you study the jurisdictions. You file the information away. Level 4, the architect. You're 31. You no longer work for anyone. Your firm, if you can call it that, it's 2 people and a registered address in Liechtenstein, services 14 clients with combined assets under management of approximately $340 million. You designed the structures. You maintain them. You understand every layer. Clients don't come to you through conferences anymore. They come through a chain of referrals so long and oblique that by the time they reach you, they've been vetted by 3 other parties first. You never meet them in public. Meetings are in private rooms, rental apartments, occasionally a yacht in international waters, not for drama, for jurisdiction. You now know the difference between clients who are avoiding taxes and clients who are hiding something else. The tells are subtle. Urgency without explanation. Requests to minimize paper trails past the point of legal necessity. Beneficial ownership structures that terminate in jurisdictions you can't verify. You take some of those clients. You tell yourself that's the business. Everyone does it. You're not the last line of defense. There are banks, regulators, law enforcement. If something is truly wrong, the system will catch it. Your job is the structure, not the audit. The money is extraordinary now. You clear $1.2 million last year, not in salary, in fees routed through your own structures, held in accounts in names you manage. You own nothing directly. Your name appears on nothing that matters. For the first time, you understand why they call this a system. You are both the architect and the product. Level 5, the fixer. Something goes wrong, not catastrophically, not yet. A client, a Russian industrial holding company, gets flagged in a Europol disclosure. Nothing implicating you directly. But the structure you built 3 years ago is now under review by a Swiss financial regulator, and one of the entities in that structure has your signature on the formation documents. Your lawyer tells you the exposure is manageable. You believe him. You spend $180,000 in legal fees managing it. But something shifts. You're not just building structures anymore. You're maintaining them against pressure. And pressure, you discover, requires different tools. It requires lawyers who know how to delay, journalists who can be dissuaded, witnesses, if it ever reaches that, who can be relocated or incentivized. You don't do violence. You tell yourself this is important. You tell yourself there's a line and you haven't crossed it, but you now know people who can move money in ways that make problems stop. And you've introduced 2 clients to those people. Introductions, not arrangements. But the distinction is thinner than it used to be. You've added 4 new clients since the incident, all referred by the same source. A Belgian intermediary whose clients you've learned to recognize by the shape of their requests. Large amounts, irregular timing, extreme concern about beneficial ownership disclosure. You don't ask what industry they're in. You sleep fine. This surprises you less and less. Level 6. The principal. You are 36 years old. You have not filed a tax return in your country of birth in 4 years. You are a tax resident of a jurisdiction you visit twice annually. Your primary residence is a rented flat in a city where you know no one socially. You have no registered assets, no traceable income. You exist, financially, as a ghost. The clients who reach you now are not hiding from tax authorities. They're hiding from governments, from sanctions lists, from war crimes investigators, from the consequences of decisions made in rooms where you will never be invited. You structure money for these people. Large amounts, 9 figures. The structures are legitimate instruments, trusts, foundations, corporate vehicles, used in ways that are not. You know this. You no longer build the fiction that you don't. Instead, you've built a different architecture, a personal one. You have 3 layers of professional distance between yourself and any single transaction. You do not correspond by email. You use encrypted voice only. You have a cover identity as a family office consultant that is technically accurate and substantively meaningless. You have 2 people who work directly for you. They know what they need to know, no more. One evening, in Zurich, you're having dinner alone and you realize you don't know the real name of any of your current clients, not one. You pour more wine. You consider whether this is a problem or a feature. You decide it's a feature. Level 7, the shadow. You are not a person to your clients. You are a capability. They don't think of you as someone with a history, with a city you grew up in, with preferences. You are a function, a reliable, discrete, experienced function that solves a specific class of problem. You have one client, who represents 40% of your revenue. You don't know who he is. You know him as an intermediary's principal. The money you move for him over 18 months totals $740 million through 11 jurisdictions. The structures hold. Nothing flags, nothing leaks. You receive payment in 4 currencies through 6 accounts in 3 of your own structures. You clear $8 million from that relationship in a calendar year. You don't celebrate. You have no one to celebrate with. The people in your life and what's left of it don't know what you do. They know a version, a plausible, sanitized, vague version. The gap between that version and the real one has grown large enough that you've stopped feeling the gap. You just live inside the real one and visit the other when necessary. You've developed a habit. Every few months you stress test your own structure. You try to find yourself legally, financially, digitally. You've become very good at this. You find very little. This is the point. But there is a cost you didn't anticipate. When you can't be found by the system, you also can't be found by anything else. By familiarity, by continuity, by the slow accumulation of a life. You are 41. You have $17 million across accounts you rotate annually. You have no home you've lived in for more than 14 months. You have 2 passports and 1 alias and a phone you replace every 60 days. You are untouchable. You are also completely alone. Level 8, the architect of nothing. There is no ceremony for reaching this level, no title conferred, no room you enter. You just realize one morning that the system no longer has a position above you. You are not the most powerful person in the network. You are not the wealthiest. The people whose money you've moved for 15 years hold more power than you will ever approach. But you are the mechanism, the invisible hinge on which everything turns. Without people like you, none of it works. The offshore accounts, the shell structures, the regulatory arbitrage, the generational wealth transfers, all of it depends on someone with your particular combination of technical knowledge, psychological discipline, and moral flexibility. You are 51 now. You have not seen your family in 3 years. There is no falling out, no dramatic severance. Just distance that became permanent through neglect and necessity. You live in a rented villa in a coastal country that does not extradite. You have a housekeeper who is paid in cash and asks nothing. You have a secure terminal and 3 lines of communication with the outside world. Some days you manage transactions worth more than the GDP of the city you grew up in. Some days you don't get out of bed until noon. You think occasionally about the accounting firm, the fluorescent lights, the coffee from the machine in the break room, the version of yourself that existed before the envelope. You try to feel something about that version, nostalgia, regret, longing. You feel a kind of distant recognition, like watching footage of a stranger. You are not unhappy. You want to be clear about this. To yourself, the only audience that matters now. You made choices, each one logical. Given the last. The path was never forced. You simply followed the gradient step by step, down into something that had no name until you were already inside it. The money means nothing specific anymore. It's not security or freedom or proof of anything. It's just the metric by which the system measures a move well made. You don't know if you could go back. You don't spend time on the question. What you know, the only thing you know with certainty, is that the system will continue. It doesn't need you specifically. It needs someone with your function. When you eventually step back, retire, disappear, the system will find another mechanism. It always does. It already has. Somewhere in the same city where you received that first envelope, a 26-year-old is opening a message on his phone. It came through a referral. Someone he respects told him he was being considered for something. He doesn't know what it is yet. He's read enough to know it pays well. He's smart enough to know it requires discretion. He's young enough to believe those two things are the whole picture. He thinks he understands what he's stepping into. He doesn't. But the door is already open, and he's already leaning in.